morning, everyone, and welcome to News Extra. And this happens to be the one-year anniversary of the Tri-City Roadrunner service throughout Scottsbluff and Gering, and a little bit outside. No, not quite outside of Scottsbluff County yet. But maybe that's something that'll come down the road. And joining us today is Administrative Assistant Curt Richter. Thank you very much for joining us today.
Well, thanks for having me in.
The evolution of bus service here in Scottsbluff County has changed a little bit over the years. Of course, it started as a handy service, handy transit, previously, and then we started last year with Tri-City Roadrunner. How have things been going over the past year?
Well, it's been a pretty chaotic year. Pretty steep learning curve. We have some new staff, both in the management side of it, the office side, and of course a lot of new drivers. So it's been a steep learning curve for a lot of us. We've worked hard to improve our services, every day. Each day we strive for improvement, and we think we've made some really good improvements. We continue to look at new and different ways to do things each day, and I hope to keep making it a more and more reliable and valuable service to the community.
Yeah, and one of those changes, I know that, of course, there's set routes for the buses, but one of those changes obviously was being able to go a ways away from those routes for pickups, correct?
Correct. Traditionally we were a curb-to-curb service over the years, and with this transition to the fixed route a year ago, we prioritized, and they looked historically where most of our pickups and drop-offs were, and that's where we've really focused on building those routes. And we still have the ability to deviate off of those routes if we need to for folks that aren't able to get to a bus stop, and then for folks that aren't within our route corridor, we still do our curb-to-curb service with 24-hour advanced scheduling on that.
Now, how has the ridership been over the past year? How has it grown and ebbed and flowed, I would assume?
Our numbers have remained about the same, slightly higher certain months. December tends to be a little slower for us. But we've had to, as we move forward, we've lost a lot of our elderly riders. They've unfortunately passed away, but we've really seen a fairly consistent number of newer passengers, both through our curb-to-curb service and on our fixed route. And we've transitioned a lot of folks that were doing curb-to-curb service to where they're now just going to a bus stop and getting on the fixed route. They don't have to call and schedule, and they could just come and go on that hourly schedule at their convenience.
Yeah, and what's the public reaction been as far as the feedback from the ridership?
We've had good and bad. We've had a lot of really positive comments, folks not having to plan ahead in advance necessarily, folks that can use us on a regular basis, take advantage of our daily and monthly passes to save themselves some money. And, we have had people that it's been a change for them, so there's been a little hesitancy on some people's part. But I think for the most part, as people have gotten used to it and get familiar with it, the overall reception has been good.
Yeah, that is very excellent, and of course it's a service that has really been needed in the area because there just haven't been transit services really for quite a long time, at least that were open to the general public. And I know that one of the keys to Tri-City Roadrunner initially was having service up at WNCC between there and the high schools, and that's an important part as well.
Yes, we've partnered with some of the local businesses and entities, the college, to the hospital, as far as helping us with some funding to help us put in some infrastructure to pay for the startup costs, and we look for ongoing support from the community to keep our services going. Obviously, if it was a money-making project, somebody else would be doing it privately.
Sure.
But we really think it's a great use of tax dollars and our the local funds that are given to us by companies and organizations to help everybody in the community benefit with those tax dollars.
We'll talk a little bit more about Tri-City Roadrunner, including the future for Tri-City Roadrunner in the second year. That's coming up right after this break. And we're back on News Extra, and our guest today is Curt Richter, who's the administrative assistant for Tri-City Roadrunner. And unfortunately, Manager Sherry Hines is a little under the weather, so she couldn't make it with us today. But thank you very much for joining us, Curt. We've been talking about service in the past. Of course, that's always something that people have been looking for as far as pricing. It is very reasonable for Tri-City Roadrunner service.
Yes, on the fixed route service, we offer several options. You can pay cash for your trip. It's $2 per one-way trip. We also have a daily pass for $5. That's unlimited, stop to stop throughout the day. And we have a monthly pass that runs for the calendar month for $45. That's unlimited rides, stop to stop, as long as you're just going to a bus stop and getting on and off. Those are unlimited for the period you purchase them for, and those are a non-transferable pass. We do also have our punch cards available that you can pay for 10 one-way trips per punch card, and just those can be used by anyone within a family or a couple or anybody that would be traveling with us. But it's a very reasonable and affordable way to get around town, and for those who don't want the expense of a vehicle or don't have the ability to drive, we try to provide our service at a very fair and reasonable rate.
Okay. Now, looking forward to year number 2, I know that at one point there was the addition of 2 new buses that was in process. Where are we at with that? Are they in service yet? Or?
Well, we received 2 right away, and I believe it was February, mid-February, when we finally got them all outfitted with radios, etc.,
Sure.
and on the road. Late February, early March, and we just actually received notice that our 2 replacement buses are in Lincoln. They're waiting for title work, and then we have to go down and bring them back and get them set up. Should have those in service within the next month.
Okay. Now with the I know that there is federal funding that helps pay for this service.
Yes.
There's not any issues with the federal shutdown right now with that, is there?
Not yet. The only thing we've seen coming down so far that might make it a little more work for us is we're going to be switching to a 2-year budget cycle. So Sherry and I work together on the budget, and we'll have to really do some number crunching and put in a lot of forethought, because we're going to have to plan our budget out for 2 years at a time now, going forward to this next budget cycle.
Yeah, you're going to be a little more detailed in the planning process.
Yes, and we now have a better grasp of what expenses are going to be tied in with this new fixed route. We were going in kind of blind to a certain extent, and that we've got some pretty good numbers compiled over the last year.
Okay. Now, are there any thoughts on expanding service outside of the Scottsbluff, Gearing, Terrytown areas, or is that something that maybe is for the far out future?
Well, the fixed route is we're pretty set with it for the time being. We still do our curb to curb throughout the county. Those require a day's advance notice, and we go to the western side of the county Monday, Wednesday, Friday. We go east Tuesday, Thursday. But unless we could come up with some other funding engines, right now we're just focusing on improving the fixed route service and getting it really fine tuned, and then hopefully that will parlay into more ridership, and that will allow us to leverage some more funding.
Okay. And speaking of ridership, what were we looking at over the past 12 months total?
We're averaging month to month between 1,800 and 2,000 riders a month. It goes between 40 to 50%, kind of back and forth between our fixed route and then our curb to curb, which is the rest of the county, the entire county.
Okay. And are there any other challenges, going forward aside from funding? Because funding is always going to be a challenge. Are there any other challenges that Tri-City Roadrunner is facing going forward?
Well, I think the problems with finding good employees, or employees that are willing to maybe sacrifice a little bit for community service. We have a good group of drivers, but we have a pretty shallow employment pool around here, and sometimes we've had some older drivers that have retired for a second time from their second job, and sometimes finding a replacement can become an issue. Other than that, our biggest issues are just taking and trying to manage what funding we do have and get the maximum benefit out of those funds.
Okay. Well, that's a Tri-City Roadrunner, 1 year in service, now starting in our second year. Congratulations. It's an excellent service available to anybody who needs it. And we're very happy that it's out there and available.
Well, thanks for having us in, and we urge people to contact us if they have any questions or want more information.
Thank you very much, Curt.
Thanks.